Hi, I'm Lisa Campion, and today we're going to talk about something that's kind of painful, actually, for a lot of people on a spiritual journey. What happens when you lose all your friends? Wow, it's a topic that's kind of painful, and I know many of us who have engaged in a spiritual journey have really experienced this. It can be incredibly challenging and painful. So, as we awaken to new levels of consciousness and shift our frequencies, we do our inner work, we can find ourselves out of alignment with the people that we were once closest to. Maybe you took a bunch of Reiki classes, you studied yoga, you did meditation. You found yourself sort of throwing yourself deep into a personal and spiritual transformation journey. And this is the beautiful thing. So if you do that, chances are really good. You're feeling lighter, you're feeling happier, you're feeling more aligned with your higher self. And you've really maybe upshift your frequency to a much higher level. And that is a beautiful thing. But maybe you've noticed as you've done that, you feel out of alignment with the people in your life. And some of your closest relationships, friendships might begin to fall apart or fade out. It can be very lonely. And it's connected then as we are like, what happened to my friends? I don't get along. I don't have anything in common. I can't relate and they can't relate to me. And then we can enter into this sort of lonely period where we don't know what to do with that. And we're looking for our new tribe, but we haven't found it yet. So in this video, I want to offer you some strategies for coping with this transition because it's super hard. It's super difficult. And I've been through it a couple of times, and maybe you have too. So let's just start by kind of taking a deep breath. And if you feel like some pain around that, you can put your hands on your heart and give yourself a little love as we talk about this. Because I know you're going to find some comfort and support about this as we talk about this today. So I think one of the first things that needs to happen when we do this is to recognize and acknowledge that there's been a shift, and that person that you've been friends with since kindergarten, or your best friend since high school, or your old college roommate you've known for whatever, how many years, and you've always been friends, and maybe now there's something that's a little bit out of alignment. One thing that happens is as we shift into our spiritual journey is that we notice maybe those people have a little bit more of a negative view in their life. And that's something that can happen a lot when we become happy and joyful and more positive. It can be a little painful to be around people that maybe complain a lot or see that like the glass half full types. And this can really lead us to a realization that those relationships no longer serve us. And it can be really hard to let go of that. But I think it's a really important thing to do. So we can recognize that people came into our life for a reason, that they played a really beautiful, important role in our lives, even if they're part of our soul family or even soulmates. Sometimes we out-evolve people. And that when we come to that realization, sometimes we need to let go. Sometimes the letting go is total, like we really have to totally cut ties. Sometimes it's like, wow, that person that you spent every day with, now maybe you see them once a month or a couple of times a year, or maybe you shuffle them into the Christmas card and messages once in a while on Facebook pile. So there's sort of a range here and I want you to think about, well, what's comfortable for you? Do you have to totally cut that person out, or what is the most comfortable thing you can do, or sort of downshift the frequency that you're spending time with them? And I think that as we do that, it's super important to acknowledge our feelings. It's okay to be very sad, angry, disappointed about it. We need sometimes to give ourselves time to grieve the loss of that relationship and to do it as best we can without judgment, to have forgiveness for them, to have forgiveness for ourselves for changing, and not to be all judgy and mean about it, but to hold compassion for both of the people in that situation. Now, sometimes you might choose to communicate with the person that you're letting go of, like tell them that what's happening with you and what's going to go on. And if you're going to do that, it's really brave and courageous to do that, by the way. So kudos to you if you're going to try that. But we need to remember to be kind about it, right? To not blame, to not project, to not make it their fault. We can explain our perspective, maybe our reasons for being for moving on. We want to be very honest, but also compassionate. And it's so important to remember that the way we end our relationships is just as important as the relationship itself. So think about this is key here. Think about, what do I need to do to clear my karma with this person? So, if I never saw them again, I'm going to have a good feeling about it, instead of creating new karma. And sometimes, like, we don't know how to end things, so we pick a fight, we create sort of a battle or something that goes on there that creates a sharp cut because we can't, do the conscious uncoupling thing. So if you can do the conscious uncoupling thing, that's great. But meditate on, what do I need to do to clear my karma with this person rather than create new? That's probably the number one key. Now, sometimes we are in situations with people where we can't have that conversation, or we don't want to, or we don't choose to. Maybe that's because they can't receive it. Like, we could say everything and they're not going to get it, right? And then it's okay to kind of do a graceful fade out, right? Just like maybe decreasing that time, between connecting with them. And then people generally get the hint when we fade out on them. And sometimes that's a graceful. I don't really feel wonderful about ghosting people unless you feel like you're in danger, or you really feel, like there's harm that can come to you. Maybe it's better not to do that, although sometimes still we have to. So what do we do when it's family, when it's parents, your spouse, your children, your siblings? This is where it gets really painful and difficult. And I think there's more we can do. There's so little inner work we can do here when it's that. So especially if it's your spouse, I really am a huge believer in couples therapy. If you're married and have children, or you've really been together for a long time and it's been a significant relationship, I am such a giant fan of couples therapy, and I recommend that you try it. Even 6 sessions. 6 sessions is really all you need. After 6 sessions, you're going to know whether this is a relationship that you can carry on. Maybe we need to work out some of our family patterning, like in our primary relationships, we get kind of like jammed into these unconscious patterns we're doing. And couples therapy can help us see that, can help us sort of come out of these stuck places, can open up the lines of communication, can help us clear resentments that have been lingering from the past. And after 6 couples therapy sessions, you're going to know, if you have a good couples therapist, whether this is a relationship that can continue to grow or not. And if not, then the couples therapist should be able to help you consciously uncouple in a way that's kind, best for amicable, best for all the parties concerned. And it's so important to do, because if you don't look at the patterning, you may just carry those patterns, unconscious patterns, into your next relationship. And I know nobody wants to do that, really. So just be so careful and so mindful. And sometimes if we do inner work, we can end up changing our expectations, and finding ways that the relationship still works. If it's your parents or your siblings or people in your immediate family, sometimes we have to let them go, of course, but sometimes we can also work in ourselves to change what we expect out of that relationship and find harmonious contact points. So opening our frame, opening our heart, practicing sort of more unconditional love can sometimes create softer, more loving relationships, even in really, really tricky ones, and sometimes it can't. So if you've done all the work and you still have to let it go, then that's something that you need to do. And I think all of this thing can create a lot of grief in us, so we're tribal as human beings. We really need people around us, even introverts, empaths and sensitive introverts. We still need our tribe. So this can be a significant loss, and it's really important to acknowledge and validate the feelings behind that. We need time to grieve, and this is very important. So however you process grief, I want to encourage you to do that. Maybe journaling is really good. Maybe writing down your thoughts and feelings can be helpful. Maybe you write a bunch of letters to that person that you never send, because you just need to kind of clear out your emotions about it and express that. Maybe mindfulness practices can help you process your emotions around the grief. And of course, therapy, counseling, work with a healer if you feel like you really need it. And sometimes we do, because this is a bigger deal than a lot of people give credit to, right? And if you're going through that, it's super important for you to do some really good self-care too. Take care of yourself. Grief is hard. It takes its own time. It can make you very tired. And so you might need extra rest as you're processing that too. And I think that there's this very uncomfortable space where we let go of the old and we have kind of like a space of nothingness, like an empty space before our new people come in. And that is, I think a lot of people experienced that during the pandemic when, we were isolated and lonely anyway. And then we've lost these old groups that we've had, that were important to us, and we haven't pulled in the new. So if you're in that space, you have my deepest compassion and sympathy. And I don't know, we just have to sit with it. We just sometimes have to sit in that discomfort of the emptiness. There has to be an empty space for the new to come in. And how do we do that? How do we then bring in the new community, right? That's the exciting part. That's amazing. Sometimes it feels really hard to do. It can be difficult. It's not like you can snap your fingers and create, an amazing new community that's totally in alignment with where you are now. And yet we can too. We have to work on it a little bit. So I think starting to attend some events that or gatherings, join a Reiki circle, find a new yoga studio, find a spiritual circle. And sometimes if you can't find it, you have to start it, right? Sometimes to create the community, we have to start it. So start a networking group, start a book reading, like a book class, pick your favorite spiritual book and throw it out there and see who shows up. If you do that, you can also join interest-based groups or organizations that are really aligned with your new values and passions. So if your new path is taking you become like interested in gardening and urban gardening and organic stuff and composting. That's just what I got interested in. But then find the groups, go to meetup. Things are starting to open up again, and these resources are pulling people together. So getting involved in a community that shares your interests can help you make new connections. Of course, there's always social media, so that can be a great thing. Find a Facebook group, start a Facebook group that's aligned with who you are in your spiritual journey. And of course, don't forget to reach out to your local community. So however that works for you, it's around if we're looking for it. And that's super, super important. So remember that it can take time and effort and consistency. So showing up over and over again, not just once, right? If you feel it, that's where your new connections can really take place. And over time, cultivating those connections can create these deeper, relationships that we're really craving. I also think it's really great to set some intention around this. Do a ritual, light a candle, pray, meditate, call it in from spirit. Like ask your spirit guides to help you attract that community and help you find it, and then follow your intuition. If your intuition, once you set your intention, if your intuition is pushing you or nudging you towards something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, it usually is, right? Then see if you can just kind of support yourself and be guided down that journey. So I think it helps to really keep ourselves open to these new connections by practicing gratitude. So focusing on the positive aspects of new connections, feeling grateful when it does happen, expressing gratitude for it can help us stay open and attract more of those positive experiences and people into our lives. So anyway, I hope that helps you. And I really feel for you if that's what you're going through right now. I've been through it. I think we all have. And if it is, then let's just take the opportunity to see it as an upgrade, and if you're going to upgrade something, you have to let go of the old to get the new upgrade. So thanks so much for being here today. I hope that helps. Leave some comments. I want to know about your experience, how that was for you and what helped for you. Thanks a lot.